This is Ella Marshall interviewing Constantin Malmare on the 29th of January 2018 at his home in Edgbaston. Constantin was born in Constanta, Romania in 1989. He moved to the UK in 2011 and to Birmingham in 2015. So can you tell me a little bit about the place you were born?
Okay, so I was born in Constanta, which is a seaside city. It was great. I mean, why? First of all, in the childhood, we have like this community center. It's huge. We don't have like in the UK, like small community centers in each neighborhood. We have a big one, which is basically just for the students, and it's called like the Palace of Students. So my parents were quite eager to make me take a lot of courses. So I did sculpture, I did photography, I think I did chess, but not for too long. I did also telegraphy, like the SOS thing, like, but again, not for too long. I did computing, and yeah. Oh, I did football, rugby, swimming at the same place, and that's kind of it. So this is just the cultural side. Then, because it's the seaside and the Black Sea is quite like very rich in nutrients, especially in my side, because the Danube is actually flowing into the Black Sea, and Danube being the second biggest river in Romania. So a lot of plankton is being born, in all the areas. So all the rocks, literally all the rocks are filled with mussels. Like, So during the summer you would just go and jump from, I don't know how to call them, but in Romania we'll call them dig, which is basically like a wall of geometric rocks that break the waves. So because there are big currents there, like we need to like put these kind of barriers for the currents so they don't take the sand away, because otherwise they destroy the beaches. So anyway, me and my friends, we would just go there to the rocks and jump into the sea. So the summers were always amazing because we would dive and then cook some mussels and then go home. And I don't know. And also like we get like a lot of tourists, so we would meet a lot of people from Romania because everybody would come to the seaside. We have my city is the biggest city like on the seaside, so a lot of people from Romania would come to our city, so everybody would come there in the summer, and then everybody would go to the mountains in the winter. So it'd be really nice exchange of culture. Also, even during the communism, the people in Constanta were the hippest in Romania because they would get the most foreign influences. Like during the communism, you wouldn't get so many influences in the continental Romania, but on the shore you would get a lot. Like everybody would have a camera, or I don't know. So when I was very young, it was quite. I mean, up to 7 years, I remember the streets were literally, there were no cars. Like the technology in Romania. I mean, we would have a TV and I don't know, like a sound system and stuff like that, but you wouldn't have this Western opulence. So everything would be quite clean. But in Constanta, because it was right next to the shore, you would have like a lot of things from everywhere basically. That's pretty much. So because it was a port, and it's actually one of the biggest ports in Europe. I think Rotterdam is bigger than it. It's not used entirely. It used to be used, but right now, I mean, as surface, as how big it is, because it's actually Constanța. I don't know how long it is, but I know that the port is 2/3 of the city, and it actually goes a lot into the sea. So it's quite big. It's not like the technology is not that high tech, but anyway, the surface is huge. And also another thing I loved was the fact that after the fall of communism, a lot of industries failed. So we had a lot of abandoned places. So I remember myself like actually exploring a lot of these abandoned places, and then when I discovered graffiti, I even started to paint in these abandoned places. So I think that was amazing. It's not like here, like here, if you write something on a wall, it immediately gets like erased, or like I don't know. It was that Tarkovskian kind of you know what I mean, like in the Stalker and in the Nostalgia. Yeah, it was exactly like that, you know, like very old places, abandoned, and you would find like a lot of communist relics. What else? Yeah, that's it. I mean, yeah, we used to have a tram, like, but then around 2000, they kind of like took out all the lines. Yeah. I like trams, yeah. So I'm glad that in Birmingham we have actually a tram line. So, yeah, that's kind of it about my city. So another thing about the trams, which is actually very essential to my childhood. So I discovered the graffiti at the same time when we started to import trams, like, you know, like tram trains from Stuttgart. And they were clean inside, but the windows were like literally scratched with graffiti, and there were like so many cool tags and like so many cool and wicked styles. Like that affected me a lot, like at least artistically, because that's how, I mean, I did graffiti because I thought it's cool, but then that kind of developed into art. So I would consider my style post graffiti, so I would consider that as being my main influence into art. Yeah, I mean, line and tags, and yeah. Also, they were like using, basically I researched how they were doing. So they were using a very strong acid to attack the window. So they would like etch the window with acid. Of course, that would be very dangerous because you would have to wear plastic. Otherwise, your skin would literally get burned. But even so, like, you know, the inventivity of it was intriguing. It was amazing. I'm not sure if I can describe the political situation completely, but I'm a child of the revolution. Basically, the revolution happened in '89. Before that, we were communists. We had a tyrant ruling the country, which everybody seems to be like ambivalent about. Not ambivalent, but, you know, like both think it was good and bad. Like nobody really knows what was right for it. And then again, he was killed. Like, I don't know what other countries had the president killed. I know that England had the king killed, and basically that's what happened in Romania, because the tyrant is pretty much a king or an emperor. So a lot of people seem to say that he was very good for us because he built a lot of things like dams, like electro centrals. I know that Syria was owning us around $4 million, which when we entered NATO about 2011, they were completely cancelled. Like, not 2011, 2007, we had to like erase all our foreign debts basically and start tabula rasa with everybody. I know that we were producing our own cars and our own computers and our own, it seems like we were quite developed. Also the sports, Romania had, like, in sports at least before, this way before I was born, but it seemed to do quite good in gymnastics and other fields. Like, I know that a Romanian gymnast got the first 10 ever in the Olympics. Like, before that it was 9.9, and they actually gave her 0.0000, which was a perfect 10. Like, that was the first one. So after the communists fell, it was quite a strange environment. I mean, we still don't have a middle class. Like, the middle class is just developing now. There seems to be a lot of corruption. Like, immediately after the fall of communism, a lot of the political class seemed to take advantage of the confusion and the fact that there was no more, strong leadership, and they started to, like, privatize all the business-owned, companies. And they were doing this through, like, a lot of fishy, practices. They were getting, like, a lot of bribe, and that's at least how the common opinion is, that the country was basically sold unfairly, So as I said, we don't have a strong middle class. We still don't have it, and so if you are a medic, basically, if you are a medic in the UK and even in France, you're quite okay, you're like even upper middle class or middle class. But in Romania, a medic would basically win as much as a person that would sell. I mean, a bit more, but you wouldn't feel like wealthier, or like you wouldn't feel that starting so much would do you right, basically. So I know that the salary of a medic would be at a certain point 15 million RONs, and for a person that would sell in a shop would be like 10 million RONs. So you understand? You wouldn't. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to explain this. Like, it's quite complicated, but how I always felt, I felt like things are not fair when I was young, and yeah, and so basically that made everybody corrupt. So if you were in a position of power, you would use that position of power, and that happened also. Like, for example, in art colleges, like I didn't went to an art college just because I always had the impression that, like, not only the teacher would be like a bit, yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but basically that corruption seems to be imminent everywhere. Like the teacher would accept presents from parents. Yes, and they would give differentiate treatment. I actually remember my mom. So basically, they would ask us to pay money to the school. Like, they would get money from the state, and they would ask us personally in the classroom to give money for a fund for the class, and then a fund for the school. So if you wouldn't pay that fund, you would be quite like ridiculized by your teachers, like by your main teacher, because basically would have a main teacher that would run the class, that would take care of the class, and then teachers that would just make their classes. So that would happen. And I remember my mom, because basically I had 3 older sisters, so she didn't want to pay all this money, because she said, well, I paid it 3 times, why should I pay it more? And I remember being ridiculized by my main teacher just because my mom said so, like, in front of everybody, like. So the corruption was real, like, But yeah, at the same time, I would have teachers that would remember my sisters, because I have 3 older sisters, and they would treat me differently just because they were such good students, like. So it goes the other way around as well. Like, I feel like there's not so much meritocracy, but everything is based about the relation that you can make with everybody else. And of course, in diplomacy, giving or gifting, it's a very big, way of getting a favorable position, pretty much. Yeah. So what I know about the situation in the arts is that we have 2 artist associations called UAP, which is the Union of Plastic Artists, but they are very patriarchal. Not necessarily patriarchal, but it feels like, yeah, it's more based upon like who knows who, like favorable positions rather than like merit. And the only institution in Romania that do something about, differently is Plan B, which is run by Joan Ghenia, and it's like a huge artist right now. It's like a huge painter, and actually I heard about him from one of my teachers at Coventry University, and then I researched. And also there are a few other galleries that run around Plan B in Cluj, and 2 others in Bucharest, which constantly participate to international art fairs. So they are like completely independent from the situation created by Ceausescu, by the communist regime, by that, yeah, they actually do something for new artists in Romania, because, yeah, in art schools and in arts organization run by the state, that still happens. That's not dead yet. In theater, in everywhere. Like I remember I might talking bullshit, but sorry. But the way the students from Romania tell me is that, I know that I had a lot of friends that study at art school, and in order to get a good grade at, for example, painting, they had to like follow blindly the style of the teacher, and then to get into the University of Arts in Bucharest, they had to like do not meditation, but how do you say it? Like, when you study with a teacher, but like outside of a school, like private lessons. So you would have to get private lessons from the teachers that would examine you in order to pass, because they would teach you exactly what they know, and they would test you exactly on what they know. They wouldn't look sideways. They wouldn't like really look at your application if you didn't do things exactly how they wanted it. So that's, yeah, I guess I wouldn't make it in Romania. I'm very rebel, like I can't follow rules. I had such a good time in Coventry just because everybody is so liberal, like, and even teachers, they would see me as being me, and yeah, they would allow me to be so. And I love that about art in UK, that they are very liberal, and they basically, whatever you want to do, they push you to do that. They help you to do that. It's more like a friend rather than like a dictator. I guess that tyranny, it's quite present in Romania. Not tyranny, but conservatism, or how to call it. Yeah.
Can you tell us about your family life growing up?
Right. So basically, we are 4 children. I'm the youngest one. I take my father's name. They really wanted a boy, so they made 3 girls before me. Apparently, one of my middle sister, actually foretold this. Like, she said to my mom, "No, mom, when my mother was pregnant with my younger sister, she said to my mom that, 'No, mom, I remember while being in your belly, there were 3 girls and 1 boy,' and he's the youngest." So yeah. So there's a 3-year difference between all of us. So right now I'm 29, the next one is 32, and so on. Yeah, 35 and 37. The oldest of my sisters, 2 of my older sisters kind of had the same academical path. So they first study in a college. They study in Romania we have 2 profiles. One is theoretical and one is practical. So they both studied theoretical, but even there you have like different specialization, and they studied it's called informatics, and well, actually it's computation and mathematics. So they did a lot of mathematics and computer stuff, and then they studied medicine, which is completely unrelated, but I guess that's the same amount of learning. So I can't remember a lot of my childhood, but I remember that it was quite fun to be around. Like we used to be very artsy, like do a lot of photos, take a lot of photos, or like just go through our parents' wardrobe and like do fashion walks, or all sorts of crazy stuff. And during the summer, our parents would send us to the countryside, which would be somewhere very close to the mountains, and yeah, it was a very, you have to imagine that life out the countryside in Romania was quite secular. Like when I was young, we would still use horses and carriages, and we would still have gooses and pigs, and like a lot of animals that wouldn't be like it would be exactly like in cartoons, animals running around the farm, and I guess that slowly died out, because I from what I heard now, everybody started to set free the animals, and you have actually wild horses running through Romania, like a lot. Yeah, exactly. The delta of Danube is like full of wild horses that run around like that. It's incredible. What else? I remember, well, not being geeky, but because everybody was older than me, I would have earlier access to information that I had access to information that, so when I was 7th grade at school, I was learning about the human body in biology, and at the same time my sisters were in the first year of university, so they were learning, like for example, we were studying malaria in school, and they were studying malaria in university. So when I came back to school, I started to speak about the 5 different types of malaria and how they are treated and everything, and that got me into a club of excellence in biology, like. So yeah, and also my mother was an engineer. My father was a professional driver. So my mother was quite she was creative as well. I remember being first grade, and she was making me these booklets, like designs drawn, in which you had to multiply chickens and stuff like that. Like, and I would have to draw them, and they were like very interesting. Like, they were illustrated by her, you know, and colored, and it was very fun. And also, I remember she would make me, like, we would travel to the countryside, and we would travel by train, and the train trip would be 14 hours. Romania is quite very big. It's like large. And in order for me to peek out of the window for like 1 minute or 5 minutes, I would have to read 100 pages from a book and then make a short story about it. And she would ask me things, and I would have to reply. And yeah, in order to verify me if I read those things. But that's how I actually learned to like... So when we got to university, they teach us again how to read a paragraph. They teach us that it's only the first sentence and the last sentence that matters, and everything else in the middle is kind of like a filling. I learned that just by, you know, being made to synthesize the whole story, so I can quite fast learn, like read and get the information. I can read between the lines, basically. I mean, I can read between the lines. I kind of got used to reading between the lines. Or poetry, basically. She would make me learn a poetry or poem, and then allow me to do certain things. I mean, it seemed quite rough to me, but at the same time, you know, my sisters actually got a worse treatment because they were the first two, so she had a way more strict, you know, bringing up than I had. I was quite, being the youngest one and being the male and the favorite of my dad, I was quite, unfortunately I got a different treatment than everybody else. So 2 of them are medics right now, the sisters, and one of them finished jurisprudence law, and right now she's a police officer. So the oldest one is a cardiolog. The second one has 2 specializations. She's a urolog and endocrinolog, so with the glands and with the liver, with the kidneys. And yeah, the oldest one actually just like working with the heart. And she actually did that because my mom has a bit of problems, so that inspired her to go into heart diseases.
Could you tell us a bit more about your early school days?
Sure. So my primary school was, well, it was a typical Romanian school, although there were extracurricular activities, so I participated to the choir, and actually we made it to national television with my teacher, my music teacher. We used to do extra classes in maths because our maths teacher was kind enough to like make optional hours. And then we had a very great English and French teacher, which would not only teach the language, but more like concentrate upon the culture of the countries. So in French language, we would learn about Paris and all the artists and all the monuments built in Paris and all the Louvre collection. And it was quite fun. It was quite interactive. The rest, you know, the Romanian language kind of courses, you know, the Romanian literature wasn't so interesting. They have quite a strict way of teaching. So basically, you read a paragraph from a text, then you have to read the whole text, and then you have to think exactly the way they want to. And that's horrible. Like basically, they make you interpret poems only one way, and that's terrible. Like you can't interpret it only one way. You can't know exactly like. I mean, those academics from Bucharest are completely insane the way they teach children, because there can't be only one interpretation of a poem. You know, you can't know exactly what he meant. You know, but then again, you pass through all the styles, you know, all the symbolism and all, you know, everything that happened during the years, and that's interesting later in life if you think about it. Then high school. So in high school, I was quite absent. Like high school were the teenage years in which I became very rebellious. Like a bit of skipping school, being very alternative. Like I was a punk. I had half of mohawk, which was yellow, and 3 dreadlocks at the back. And trust me, I was very alternative. Like, I had a teacher, a mechatronics teacher, who was called Mata, and I remember coming after a week of skipping school. I would, make up a good excuse. I would manage to like get myself. But she would come to me and look, what is different about yourself? Like, like she would always check up on me. I mean, the teachers were okay, but still, being so alternative. Yeah, you can kind of feel that in Romania, like I don't know. I guess college here is a bit different. You can choose whatever you want. Yeah, you don't really have that option in Romania. You choose at the beginning, and you have to follow through for 4 years. You have no options. You can't go left. You can't go right. If they see you being talented in one matter, they would go like, but why didn't you go to the art school, or why didn't you do that? Like, they don't really allow you to discover yourself every year that you go. And I guess, again, that just reflects the fact that, they want to have a straight path. And then after finishing high school, so basically, I did 2 years of economics till I realized this is not what I want to do altogether. So I spent 1 year perfecting my English, learning history of art, by myself, self-taught, philosophy, what else? Oh, debate, and history of film, yeah. And then, this is the Romanian education story, it kind of ends here. Yeah, this is 2010. About basically life outside school. So I started going out when I was kind of 7th grade. I started by being a rocker, like listening to rock music, like alternative new metal or new metal in itself. There weren't a lot of places to like hang around like that. There was just like 2 bars in Romania. And by the way, that's another thing in Romania that is quite like very dodgy, and I guess that happens in all Eastern Europe, is that there's a lot of underage drinking, there's a lot of underage smoking, and people just seem to be okay with it. They don't seem to mind that much. There was also like a holiday resort just for like alternative people. So can you imagine, like, there was a whole village that looked like Glastonbury all the time, like all the summer. It was exactly like, all the punks or the hippies or the tech heads, they were there like in the same place because it was very libertine. But then the years passed and it became more and more commercial, and now it's like completely changed, and everybody cries after the good old days, exactly like the old people, because the old people decry, the death of Ceausescu. We decry the fact that, that place kind of evolved into a very commercial place. So, initially I was like a new metal head, and then slowly I learned about black metal and metalcore, and from metalcore I kind of went into punk. And when I became a punk, I used to like basically travel around Romania, like to skip school for weeks and just travel around without any money, like, just travel around and meet other punks from other city, just go to another city and without any sort of money, just like doing that and making Antifa protests, and just like being an Antifa, and and then that slowly died out. Me being a punk slowly died out. I guess my hormones went away. Or at least I learned to understand better my emotions, because I guess there's a lot of teenage angst that gets expressed through that teenage, I don't know, like punk violence, or necessarily to listen to something, I don't know, not all teenagers, but most of them. I met a lot of people that spend their angst through listening to this kind of noisy music. And anyway, after punk, became I slowly went into electronic music, which I still do now. Like I basically went into the electronic music scene, and I started to do posters for festivals around my city, and basically I even organized. So basically it was graffiti and electronic music, but before that it was punk and graffiti, which also seems to go very well together, because we were like, painting on trains and stuff like that. We were completely hardcore, like really hardcore, like these things I've seen were like, yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, there used to be a place in Bucharest which was very touristical for all the writers in Europe. So writers from Europe would come to that place because you could paint like for 2 hours without being interrupted. So it was like a depot, and there was an entry, so it was over the ground, the depot, but also there was a tunnel, and there was only one place, that like a small shack for a person to sit and look at, like if anybody goes into the tunnel or look around. So if you could escape without that person in the shack noticing you, you would stay in that tunnel and paint for like 2 hours. And it was amazing because not only you could paint for 2 hours, but there would be like a small platform. So basically you could reach the train from top to the bottom. So a lot of whole cars in Romania used to be painted there. And yeah, we painted there as well. It was quite... I remember the first time I painted there, I actually messaged my girlfriend saying that it was better than sex. The adrenaline, jumping into the tunnel and fearing that there's no way to escape. You have to, like, if anybody comes, you have to face them. You would face them. You would have to fight, basically. It was incredible. Like, I really like adrenaline. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, getting back to my home city, I was saying that I went back into electronic music and a bit of hip hop as well. Like, I went a bit into more lyrical stuff, because punk was all about protesting and decrying everything that happens around you. So I even managed to get into politics somehow in Constanta. So there was a guy that was running for the mayor, and one of my friends knew him, and we managed to like rent a beach in Constanza and draw. There was a house in the middle of the beach, and we drew it with graffiti. Like, one day, there was a competition there. We gave a first prize. We bought 1,000 cans for that event, and we also had a 2-day festival with music, and we had 5,000 visitors, for that event. So it was quite popular. What I mean, graffiti and hip hop and electronic music back then. Like, this I think happened somewhere in 2012. Like, no, sorry, not 2012, 2008, 4 years before. Yeah, because 2012 there was another election. Yeah, but the guy was quite crazy, like, in the sense that in one of his campaign, actually, he rented an elephant and walked with the elephant around the city. Yes. The elephant was his mascot. Oh, trust me. Wait, there's another interesting thing. Our ex-mayor, like the last mayor, was so corrupt. Like, he was so crazy. I used to work, like, every summer in 2012 and 2013, I used to work in a very posh nightclub owned by one of the richest persons in Romania, that owns the biggest football club and so on. Anyway, and our mayor was actually there on the VIP lounge every time. Actually, I would serve him, and he would always come with fashion TV models, like with 12 models, always drinking the same thing, Ramazzotti, with a big Cuban cigar. Like, you wouldn't imagine. He actually had a video, like a TV music video, in which he has 2 lines. Yeah, he's crazy, man. He actually kite surfs and like, he actually makes every year, and he made the law in which all the clubs have to have a carousel in the parade, and he makes like a parade like in Rio de Janeiro. Like, he's yeah, he posed in Playboy, not naked, but like in very fancy gangster kind of looks and stuff like that. Well, now he's in prison, but yeah. because he got bribed like a lot. But then again, everybody, I don't know if you heard, but recently the prime minister actually passed a law in which was legal to steal up to 10,000 euros at one moment, and they passed the law at 9 o'clock in the evening. So all the Romanians, like all the Bucharest, functioning people from Bucharest went and protested in front of the government because that's unacceptable. He basically legalized stealing. So things like that happen. The political class is extremely corrupt right now, and we're really fighting. We're going to the street. We recently last year had a protest with 600,000 people in front of the government because things like that happen. And you can't stop them. The problem is, I guess, sorry to go back into politics, but the problem is that there's a lot of people from the countryside that are completely uninformed. They don't have internet, or they have just TV, and TV is misleading. It's not the way to get information, and basically they vote for the person that just does a small incentive for them, and then that's it. So the election were actually won with people that had no idea what is really happening with the ruling class. The people from the city didn't vote at PSD, which basically PSD is a socialist party, but it's not really socialist at all. It's very corrupt. The liberals and other parties are way more socialist than them. It's because basically that party is the old communist party, which was also corrupt, and okay. I shouldn't go further into that, but there's a lot to speak about it. So why did I move? Well, it became obvious that, I was going out with a friend that was from Coventry, but universities from UK were already recruiting students from Romania. So a few of my friends actually went with 2 years before me in Coventry, because Coventry was coming literally in all the cities and recruiting people. And this friend of mine did industrial design at Coventry, and there were 3 other friends. 2 of them finished painting. One of them was researching. Actually, there were more than 2. There were a lot of them, if I realize now. There are around 6 or 7. 3 of them started at the same time as me. So basically, the guy that convinced me to come here, he said that my place is not in Romania, first of all. And I never felt like my place is there. Being a punk and being so against everything kind of proved the fact that I was not feeling well there. I was really feeling forced to be, rebellious, to be against it. Being punk is basically rioting all the time, So obviously you don't feel well in your context. So he said that I can see you having a future in arts or as a street artist, but not in Romania. Go away from Romania. Don't stay here. So I said, yeah, that's it. I'm going out. So I came to Coventry because I had a few friends here, and that guy was here. So I actually lived with 3 Romanians in my first year, but then after my first year, I kind of felt like they finished university, and I was just left alone. But then again, I made a few friends, 3 or 4, not more than that, in the first year. So. And also I realized by the end of my second year that I have a few more friends in Birmingham. So it was quite okay. And now I'm realizing I have a few more friends in London, way more than here. So how should I start? I started university. It was great. I was getting A after A in the first year. It was amazing. It was so easy. They were teaching us, it was history of art, right? It was contextual studies called. I literally knew everything, because the year before I studied it, so I was always with my hands up, to say all the answers, and everybody kind of hated me at a certain point because I was always, speaking, about everything I knew. I guess I always like, it's like take the mic and basically be in front of everybody. And that kind of annoyed all my peers in a way. But the opportunities that you have in Romania are even better than, for example, in Italy. So I did my Erasmus after the second year in Italy, and they didn't have laser cutters. The silk screen room had a lamp that was built by them, was basically like a box with a window with a small door beneath that you would pull out two lamps, put the clock on one, put the clock on the second one, put it back. And that was a university that was like 200 years old, and that actually has a big alumni, like incredible alumni, and their art collection, because they have school, have museum, is incredible. So the students, have really nice things to copy from, and all the teachers were very nice. And actually they have in Bologna, because that's the city I was in, they have the oldest university in the world, but besides that they have like around 25 galleries of art. Not even Birmingham has that many, and they have an art fair, an international one. Birmingham doesn't have that, so the level there, of talent was incredible. The talent pool was incredible, but the things they're working with, they had no space. We were literally drawing on the hallways, like that was your studio, on the hallways, in front of the classroom, not inside of the classroom. So financially they were bankrupt, but talent-wise, people were very talented. Like, also they had a lot of new drawings, so that was nice. You don't have that in Coventry. We had to pay actually for every nude class. So there is this thing actually, that difference, that there was a lot of socialisms there. Like they had a lot of events, they had a lot of free meals, like a lot of, I don't know how to describe them. So basically they occupy houses and they give this thing called aperitivo. So basically you buy a drink for £2 and you can eat for free as much as you want. So it's like a free buffet. And also they have like a lot of dances in the piazzas in which people serve food on the street, So it's very sociable in that kind of thing. But like technology wise, it's not that high tech as UK. So for example, in UK I can get a print for like an A2 print, an A1 print for £5. In Italy, I would print that with €20. So the difference. That difference is like incredible. It's like I like it better here. Like, to be honest, like even if you pay for things that there are free, and everybody's a bit more warm and sociable there, I think I do want to work, and I'm a bit more work oriented rather than. I guess so. I do like UK, no matter how hard it is. I do like UK. I do like this. I'm going to tell you, for example, for the postage in the UK. The postage in UK, it's like to send a tube outside of UK is £5. To send it inside the UK, first class is £6. Second class is £5. But like I can send a package here to everywhere in the world for £5. From Germany, it's €20. To send one in America. From Estonia, €50. So there are some things here that make me think I can make it. I can have this very productive period of my life, and then just go to a warmer place. I don't know. I don't imagine my good old days to be like in the UK, but I imagine my peak at least. Being here at a certain point. I mean, I think London is exceptional for opportunities. Like I do see a lot of potential in the UK. Yeah. So I also have to say about the library. I found the library in Coventry being like, so it was a whole floor of only art books, and I found myself just being there for hours and just looking in pictures and I don't know, I'm a sucker for like albums. Like I would just look at them and study them for hours and hours and hours and hours. I spend my time mostly on just like finding articles and stuff like that on the internet. So being in a library, basically, it was pre-internet, but basically it's pretty much what I can find on the internet as well, like interesting facts about everybody. And yeah, I mean, I found about artists I didn't know in Romania just by doing a research about Romanian artists in Coventry Library. And that's actually, I found one great artist called Paul Nagu. There was a teacher at the Royal College, and I just had an interview at the Royal College. I don't know if you know, guys. They accepted me. And when they asked me, what do you want to write about, I said I want to write about Paul Nagu because he was there as a teacher, and he teach three of the best British sculptors, which are Rachel Whitehead, Anish Kapoor, and Anthony Gormley. So Rachel Whitehead and Anish Kapoor speak about Paul Nagu as, in high regards, but the student that actually had the most to learn from him, which is Anthony Gormley, never speaks about him at all. So I said that I would like to study that relation that they had, or that they could, you could chart between them. Yeah. I mean, yeah, so that's I found in UK, which is very interesting always to find new things about your fellow compatriots. He actually also ran away from the regime. We have one of the most intelligent Romanian writer called Mircea Eliade. He wrote the history of religion in the manner that Michel Foucault wrote the history of imprisonment and other institutions, and he wrote it while being here in the UK. He did his research here and in India and in other places, but mainly in the UK. So also he went. I mean, I guess the potential in UK, at least intellectual wise, is enormous. Like, the universities here have a lot of research and they fund a lot of PhDs, and let me tell you about, for example, Erasmus. I know that all the students that want to do Erasmus in the UK, they can go. It doesn't happen like that in Eastern Europe. Like, the places available for funding are quite limited, and that's very lucky here. Like, that everybody gets to go if they want. Yeah. The hard part. Well, when I arrived in the UK, I did have some money put away. Like, my sister always helped me, my biggest sister that lives in France and is a cardiologist. She always helped me a lot, And I mean, my parents helped me as they could, but then again, the amount of money they gain in Romania for UK money is ridiculous. And they have their own life there, and they have their own, spendings and stuff. So I couldn't really get basically nothing from them because, as I'm saying, the level is incredible. It's like 10 times, like lower the income and everything. And just my sister helped me. And up to 2014. So 2014 was when I arrived back from Italy. So my first and my second year, I couldn't work here. So I had no income. Well, I did work, but very dubious jobs. Like, I worked for this guy that was a Bulgarian and had a cleaning company, and he was subcontracted, and the conditions were horrible. Like, that man was terrible as well. So I applied twice to get my national insurance number. And what you have to do, you have to demonstrate that you have enough money to sustain yourself without working here, and that you have a grantor. So a bit like living in London, you have to demonstrate that somebody will send you enough money to live here, so you won't depend on working here. Like, you won't sustain yourself with the money working here. I know that people that actually lived here for 5 years before are allowed to get a maintenance loan. As European students that just come now, they're not allowed to get a maintenance loan. So you have to come prepared, which I didn't. So I ended up, both in the first year and the second year, the last weeks, being penniless and just sleeping wherever I could, literally. It got to the point that I locked myself in university one night, literally. And in the morning was fun because apparently there was a new cleaning lady, so I had to, basically I was hidden in a office, and I had to hold the door, so they thought it's locked or blocked You know, it was that kind of like spy escape, and then they went away, and I immediately like run away from them. It was 7 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning. I guess it was quite fishy that I was there already in the school, which yeah. But then, yeah, I just had to resort to finding friends that could hold me on their couch and stuff like that. Because literally I couldn't, I couldn't afford to pay rent anymore. And it got to a point where in the second year, I couldn't pay monthly anymore, so I had to pay weekly. So every week I would have to struggle to get the money for the next week. Like I would pay it every Friday. And sometimes I would be late like 4 days, and my landlord would be just like, sorry. Yeah, well, wait. So, so I got to a point in which like my relation with my landlord was just terrible. Like yeah, there was this tension always. So also like in the first, second, and even the third year, like in the third year I managed to be able to work, but even so the first job I got was in the warehouse, and it was completely dehumanizing. Like I don't understand how those people work in the warehouse. You're treated like in a prison. They control you at the entrance. You're not allowed to have a phone. You're not allowed to do anything. It's like an automatic thing. I really don't understand how those people live like that. Like in the warehouses, I can't wait for the moment in which everything will be automated, because that's not the way to work for a person. Like it kills you, literally kills you. I'm so creative that I can't, like at a certain point I was just building like castles out of boxes, empty boxes, and I can see my manager, pointing me down for that. Also, related to this, like every mistake you would do in that warehouse, you would have to sign yourself there next to the mistake. And I actually have a work in which I draw a pattern, and every time I do a mistake, I put my name as the hangman. The hangman, when you put a letter down, when you draw a part down when you don't choose the right letter. So it's more like that. I would write my name slowly with every mistake I would do. Yeah, so even that, just like taking credit only for your mistakes rather for your achievements, like that way of being treated is, yeah. I was also working at a gallery, but in the first 2 years I was here in Coventry, I couldn't really work legally, so I wasn't really paid, as a contract. But then in the third year, because I had a national insurance number, I started to be paid by the union, and also I started to do like student ambassador work, so I actually went to fairs and represented my university, so that was fun and well paid. Yeah, what else? No, it was very hard. It was extremely hard. So in the first 2 years I got to basically the only meal I would have would be spaghetti with passata. That would be my meal. Sometimes I would add condiments, sometimes I would add garlic, that quite rarely as well. And I remember in the third year, I decided actually to build a monument to this. So I had the palette, and I don't know if you know, but when you open passata boxes, they are silver inside. So basically I filled, I put a lot of silver at the back of a palette, yeah? And then I had an instant coffee from Mazda, jar, and I hollowed it, and put a light inside of it, because basically that was my only coffee. I would drink a lot of instant coffee, and having the light there, basically lighting you up, like getting some energy from it. So I put that at the back of the palette, and on the front of the palette there is this image with a small paper boat with a pirate ship flag going towards an island. And then on the palette, I would pierce the animation, like 4 instances of a paper boat slowly sinking, slowly sinking on every wooden board of the palette. Actually, I have the painting. I still have the painting, but the palette went away. I destroyed it, and there were a lot of materials, because that palette used to be on my desk, so I would always draw on it. I don't know, I just liked it. And I thought I'd make something with it, and that's what I did with it. And I exhibited this in my final year show, and my final year show was called Epave des Échouages, which means shipwrecks and strandings in British, in which I collected all sorts of materials from my experience in UK and just exhibited them as failures, or like just like, you know, impasses, you know, like places you can't really escape from. Yeah, that's kind of yeah. So I started to have a connection with Birmingham in my second year of university. Basically, I lived here for a few weeks in my friend's house. They had a lovely 6-room house and with a huge living room, and it wasn't just me basically crashing on the couch. There was another couch surfer, let's call it. So the same friends that I was living in this house, they were quite involved with the techno scenes from Birmingham. So when I left to Italy in 2013, I was constantly making posters for this party called Output in Birmingham, and we called amazing names. We called, I don't know if you know it, Anthea, Jon Ludwig, Valentino Cazziani, Barak. So huge names in the tech house scene, like each of them with more than 30,000 followers, you know, more than that. So I got exposed to this kind of scene of tech house, and after I finished university, my girlfriend and I moved. I had a girlfriend in my last year. So we spent the summer in Coventry, but then we moved to Birmingham, and initially it wasn't that good because I lived in Ward End, and let's face it, Ward End is not the nicest place on earth, and definitely not in Birmingham. But then luckily the next year, so I moved in I think it was November, and then in next year, somewhere in March, I got a lovely place in Brookfield Road, which is quite close to here. It's Hockley. And my roommates were amazing. We had a dishwasher finally for the first time in, you know, my UK experience. Yeah, so I started. I mean, Birmingham is so much more culturally active than Coventry. In Coventry, everybody knows everybody here. People tend to be rotating every year. Like you seem to have, you know, other players, big players, not small players, in the art scene. And you know, also you have Viking Gallery, you have East Side projects that, you know, constantly keep this place alive. You have Sonic Festival, you have Fierce Festival, which actually I got involved in 2 years ago. I think it kind of changed, so now a bit, seems a bit, at least the graphic design, I used to love the graphic design from Fierce Festival. Well, the names are quite good, still are good. You have Flatback Festival, you have, you know, a lot of going on. So yeah, Birmingham seemed very, very interesting. And the city centre of Birmingham, you know, it looks a bit, you know, like taller and more corporate. You do have this impression that things are moving on. Well, of course, it's as suburban as every UK city, but at the same time, you have this experience that everything is changing and shifting all the times, and yeah, you don't get bored. You have, I mean, at least for me, because I like to go to raves. You have, you know, big names coming every month, you know. And of course, this techno scene is completely disregarded. We think it's just like people going out and acting crazy, but there is a lot going in culturally in there. Like the people that put music and play music. Like I've been to Berlin so far. Like I started because of Output, because of those guys. I've met this DJ called Anthea from Berlin. Well, she's from UK, but she moved to Berlin because Berlin is way more culturally active than even London, and way more cheap. And I started to do posters for her, and so far I produced 7 vinyls. I have 7 vinyl released, and I've designed posters with her as far as Moscow, Odessa, Stockholm, New York. You know, so from Birmingham, you know, to all these places, you know, like my images went there basically, and that's amazing. I think that's amazing. And if I look online, who bought the vinyls, they go even further, you know, they go to South America, you know, they go to old weird places. So yeah, I mean, Birmingham gives me this impression of being connected, well connected. I mean, you can't figure it out immediately, but you know, one thing goes there, and then it goes there, and then it goes there. So I feel there's more connectivity, you know, way more than even in Romania, because in Romania, even though we had 5,000 people, they were locals. Like those laborers from Romania, they're not heard of outside of Romania. And people, I mean, there is that, it's called Sunrise, and it's like the biggest booking agency for DJs from Romania. It's quite well connected internationally. But even if to get to there, to design for them, it's quite complicated because they already have a very good designer. Whereas in UK, I feel like there's always somebody new coming up and, you know, bringing with them a new team, you know. And I was lucky enough to bring up this label, which now disappeared. I mean, it didn't disappear, but we were quite inactive for like the last year. We did 2 parties. One was Output, as I said, and another one was Backspace, a bit more underground, that was actually playing Romanian DJs, and it was a bit with Birmingham scene, and yeah, that was a bit more intimate party, but still, it would gather at least 250 people a night, and we'd do an after party, you know, with our DJs as well. So the party would continue even for 3-4 days, like we would, yeah. It was great. I mean, it still is. I mean, we would go to a party, then to after party, and then after party somebody's room, and we would, you know, bring the turntables and CDJs, and we would just stay there for like, you know, as long as we would need to. And yeah, I guess that would happen at home as well, but here it's a bit more international. Like, you know, it's amazing, like people you meet. I love that. I love this, you know. And you can be as different as you want. In Romania, it's not I feel like Romanians are a bit way more traditional. Yeah. I mean, Coventry is quite cosmopolitan as well, but Birmingham is even more. Although, you know, ideally I would see myself even further than Birmingham. Like, I don't see Birmingham as a final stop. Yeah.
What is your relationship with Romania now?
So I can't say I want to go there too soon back. I mean, I don't see myself living there. I definitely want to visit it again and again and again, because although I read a lot about places, you know, from around Romania, I never visited them. So I guess I would like to have the chance to visit them, because there's a lot of very beautiful places. Like, the land is incredible. You know, it's full of history. Like the first Romanian state, the first organized state in that region dates back in the 2500s. So we have, you know, very old citadels, and we have like, you know, like Stonehenge kind of, you know, things around Romania. I guess those were calendars or something like that, we think they are. So there was a Celtic population at a certain point there. There was a lot of Greek colonies, like my home county. I think we have 105, you know, old Greek citadels, like ruins. They're ruined, but they are there. You know, they're spread around the land. And there's a big monument called Apolumnul Traiani, which is a 100 marble built monument built by Traian when he actually conquered Dacia, which was the old Romanian state. And by the way, fun fact, he built also one in Rome, in which he describes the history of the people from back then in Romania and how he beat them, obviously, because otherwise why he would build it. And the same thing is actually in Albert and Victoria Museum. There's a cast of this column. Yeah, so it's cut in two and it's there. So that happened, you know, around my county. So yeah, as I said, the summers are nice, yet I haven't been there since 2013. I guess just because financially I can't afford, you know, to go back there. I usually meet my family in France at my sister, so just over the channel, because it's way cheaper. It's like 30 euros, you know, to get there. And then I don't have to worry about any financial trouble, or I don't know. Yeah. that's kind of it. Earlier that, you know, I don't think Birmingham is my final destination, but at the same time, I don't think it's you know, it's a very bad place to live in. I realized during all these years that the more you live into a city, the more you get used to it, to its customs. Like, I changed so much and I learned so much about how to live in England, you know, and how to live in Coventry, and now how to live in Birmingham. So I would look with a lot of pain back to it, because, you know, I would lose a lot of friends that were quite in reach for me here, you know, when I moved to another place. Like trust me, I always get this impression, when I was living in Coventry, I kind of hated Coventry, but then I was living in Bologna, I kind of missed Coventry and hated Bologna, and then I left from Bologna back to Coventry, and I hated, you know, being in Coventry again and wanted to be back in Bologna. So there's always this miss, I guess, this nostalgia. I mean, I'm a person that I always want to improve, so I'm never satisfied entirely, but I can say that from the beginning, living in Birmingham up to now, I feel like a lot has changed and I'm getting better at living in Birmingham. And I guess that should be, you know, true for everybody that lives here.